Take two.
Round two. I literally was just saying that I was so surprised that I had no technical difficulties this time. And then I had the most technical difficulties I've had. So
Yeah, we looked down and it was the spinning wheel of death.
So we're back, round
something
two.
that you never want to see, but
literally, it made my heart sink.
But luckily, we had only been talking for like
That's true.
like 2 minutes.
Imagine if it had been the whole time. I'm like, okay, we're doing it all over again.
That's my worst nightmare.
So
That's happened to me before, by the way.
God. You had to redo a whole episode? Was it with someone else?
It was with the first time that I had 2 guests on at the same time.
Oh, no.
And it was in person. It was great. They like had traveled here for the episode. And I don't know what happened. Just the files got corrupted. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're not bringing that energy into this episode.
No, we're not.
So we're going to start again.
Yes.
This is Cherokee Luker. She is an amazing model. She has her own podcast. We're going to get into that. She is also a mom. Mm-hmm. She's currently pregnant with her second baby. She is 38 weeks, right? 32 weeks. 38. You're like, girl, I would have been at the hospital.
I feel like I'm 38 weeks.
You look amazing.
Thank you.
How's this baby treating you so far?
I feel like she's going to be real feisty.
Oh, no.
I don't remember feeling like this with Hunter. The amount that this girl moves in my stomach is crazy.
She's going to be a runner.
Yeah, she is. I feel like she's like doing acrobatics in there. It's
Maybe
crazy.
She'd be a gymnast.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than her not moving at all. I'm like, is this normal? When I go to my doctor's appointments, they're like, well, it's better than
not
nothing.
Moving. Yeah, for sure.
Like she literally just kicked me right now.
She's like, yeah, girl, I hear you.
Yeah.
Cherokee's like the most sweet, nurturing, like kindest person ever. I feel like you're meant to be a mom. Were you like super excited when you found out you were pregnant the first time?
No. Oh my God, girl, no. I was never the type of person who was like, oh, I can't wait to be a mom. Like I always knew that I wanted to be a mom, and I was a great dog mom. So I feel like that translates. Yeah. But I feel like when I found out I was pregnant with Hunter, I was only 27 at the time. And it was kind of right when the pandemic was starting. Mm-hmm. And so I just felt like the timing was not right. But I feel like a lot of people say that when they get pregnant. I feel like there's no really right time.
Yeah.
And now obviously that I have him, like I literally cannot picture my life without him. And it's the best thing that's ever happened. But finding out that I was pregnant was a really hard pill to swallow, especially because of our industry that we're in.
Yeah.
And because I was 27, I feel like I just like didn't have my shit figured out. I had just really gotten to LA. I had only been here for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, I just didn't feel prepared.
Yeah.
But then I think it's just like,
you figure it out.
Yeah. It's our motherly instinct, and it's our instinct as women.
Yeah.
And we're literally put on this earth to do that. So yeah, it's been amazing.
And how do you feel in comparison this time? Like, do you feel more prepared? Do you feel ready?
I feel like I'm definitely going to be a lot more chill, like because the first time around you're like, I literally have no idea.
Don't know anything.
What I'm doing. And I feel like you're very paranoid
yes.
about a lot of things.
I cannot even imagine.
Yeah, it's like you wake up in the middle of the night to check if they're still breathing. Oh, yeah. But I feel like this time around, I'll know what to expect. The part that I'm most nervous about is like having to balance my energy between 2 kids.
Yes, we were talking about that in the first session of before we weren't recording, that I've been babysitting a couple of times a week, and just like having a kid for 6 hours is exhausting. Like I can't imagine 24/7, and now you're gonna have 2. It's gonna be a lot.
Yeah, I'm definitely nervous for that, but I'll adjust.
Yeah.
It's probably going to take a solid like 6 months to get like the flow and groove of things. But I think for the most part, it's going to be
And then also once she's older, it'll be amazing because they'll have each other to hang out with.
Exactly.
And like, that's ideal.
And I am happy that Hunter is 3.5 because he's old enough to understand. Yeah. He's old enough to help out. So it's a good age gap.
Yeah. And what do you feel like? Do you have any fears about you said before that you're going to try to move out of LA.
Yes. Yeah. We're trying to look for places. Maybe, I don't know. We're looking kind of all over. We really like Paso Robles. Okay. We like Orange County, but it's just like, it's just a matter of finding the right spot.
And then your whole family's in Maine.
Yeah.
Would you move back to Maine?
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, I would love to raise kids there, but realistically for like career wise, there's really nothing. Yeah.
And are you planning on staying in modeling like post second baby?
If it works out, then yeah, for sure. But I'm not really gonna focus all of my energy on it, if that makes sense.
For sure. Well, also it's like we're kind of reaching that age where like,
yeah,
you know, there's not an age where you have to stop modeling or like your career ends, but it's like kind of the turning point. I don't know if you feel like this. You're 31.
31.
Okay, I'm about to turn 30 in like 2 weeks, and I feel like,
oh yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I feel like there is a kind of pressure in the industry.
There's definitely an expiration date, I feel like. Unless you're like a top supermodel.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, I mean, I already am feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super weird for me now when I go to jobs and like
you're
like the old person and someone's like, I'm 18 and you're like, wow, I'm a fossil.
Yeah.
It feels super weird to me.
I feel so out of place sometimes. I was on set one time and it was probably a group of like, I don't know, like 3 male models, 3 female models. And they were all like, I bet I'm the oldest one here. And I was like, oh, really? How old are you? They're like 22. I was like, got you beat by a few years there.
Which is a nice compliment because people often still think that I'm young. I mean, we are young, obviously. But people are like, well, how old are you? Like 25? I'm like, girl, I'm turning 30 in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I don't know if you feel the same way. Like for me, I feel good about it. Like I'm accepting this new chapter of my life and I feel excited about it, but it also is weird living in LA and in these industries. It does make you feel like your age is kind of more important than maybe it feels in other career fields.
Yeah, I feel like it's just a common theme that I think every woman experiences, and of course it's heightened in our industry. But yeah, you start feeling the pressure. Of ages, like ageism is a thing.
Yeah. Well, and also it's like for me, I think when you're not as mature mentally, maybe this industry is a little more fun and like, cause you're just kind of like, just living life and you're accepting like the kind of craziness and the chaos of it. And then for me, as I've gotten older, I'm like, I don't want the chaos anymore. I want something like calm and predictable and stable, something that fulfills me, which is why I'm doing the podcast. I'm sure that's why you started your podcast as well. Cherokee has an amazing podcast. Okay, wait. Mindful, intuitive, lifestyle, fitness. M.I.L.F. way.
The M.I.L.F. way.
And it's all about those things. Lifestyle, fitness, mindfulness.
It's really just like a wellness podcast. And I focus a lot on motherhood. But it's been a really fun experience.
We were just sharing that it is so hard to do a podcast.
It's a full-time job.
A lot more than you would expect, but it also is so fulfilling for me. When I post a photo on Instagram, it's like, I just don't, it doesn't make me feel anything anymore. It's just, it never felt like it was 100% attached to who I am.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you're doing when you're doing something that's like actually something you're passionate about, you just, it hits in a different way. Even if I'm only getting like 5 likes on my podcast post, I'm just like, yeah, this feels like it's representative of who I am and what I care about.
I agree. And also it's like, if you really think about it, when do you ever really get the chance to sit down and talk to somebody for an hour plus? Unless you're really like on a date or something.
That's true.
But for the most part, it's like you're getting to really connect with other people. And that's the part that I love the most about it. And you get to know somebody on such a deeper level than if you were just like, I mean, yeah, you can go to dinner and drinks and stuff, but it's different. It's like much more intimate.
You learn so much about people that you didn't even know, which actually we're going to get into right now. I want to know your like origin story into modeling.
Oh, okay. How much time we got?
We got all the time in the world, girl.
Roll back the tape.
Yeah, we're rolling back the time.
Let's see. So I think we previously mentioned I grew up in Maine.
Yes.
So where there is...
But you're the first person I've ever met from Maine. I literally, it's like one of those places that I'm like, is Maine a real place?
Yeah.
Like,
everybody just forgets that Maine is part of the United States.
You guys are way over there.
Yeah, we're way up there. And there's really not a lot going on in Maine as far as this whole industry goes. So I grew up in a really small town called Industry. And I'm trying to think back to the first time that I got like a real taste of being interested in becoming a model. And I think I was probably around like 7 or 8 years old.
Oh, so little.
I was influenced by my older sister, and there was like this open casting call in the town of Portland. So we drove to this open casting call. And it was one of those scams that we later come to find out.
You're going to hear a lot about those on this show.
Where they ask you to pay a bunch of money, and it's just like, it's total scam.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was super exciting
Yeah.
because I had never experienced anything like that. I have very faint memories of it, but I remember just like waiting in this long ass line, and you go up to these casting producers or whoever they were, and they basically just like look at you, and I remember they had like a deck of cards, and they were giving out 52 cards to the finalists.
Oh, wow.
And so my sister and I go, and we both each received a card. And so I feel like that was kind of like my first...
It was like your first casting.
Yeah, and it was kind of like my first taste of like being validated for my looks.
Yeah, being chosen.
Which was like, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing because I was young.
Yeah.
I was really young. But I remember that experience because my sister had brought one of her friends, and her friend didn't end up getting a card. And I still remember to this day, like so distinctly, how upset her friend was. The whole entire ride home, she was just like bawling her eyes out. We had to console her, and it was really hard to witness that. And I remember thinking, like, I never want to feel that ever.
And little did
I know that's
there's
literally
gonna be a lifetime of that.
Exactly. So much rejection.
We actually haven't talked about that a ton on the podcast, podcast yet, like the rejection.
Oh, yeah, that's majority of what you're going to experience. I mean, at least that's been my experience.
No, 100%. I think even at the highest level, like you're never going to book every single thing unless you're like Bella Hadid. But I'm sure even those people have experienced it to an extent.
Yeah.
But it's so much putting yourself out there and hearing no. Yep. And so
getting a lot of doors slammed in your face. Yeah. But then it's almost like once one door opens, then it's like it kind of makes all of that disappear.
It's like
and
a
you're
drug.
Like, oh, great. I feel amazing again. So it's kind of like this weird like addiction almost.
Literally
is kind of what it feels like.
You're like chasing the high of like, well, first of all, you're chasing the money, obviously.
Right.
But also, just that, like you said, it's like the validation of like everything that you're doing and all the hard work you're doing and the time you're putting it in the gym and the test shoots you're doing, all that is like worth something. Like when you finally get a booking, it like, it validates all that you're putting into it, which is a lot. Yeah. So that was kind of my first like taste of it. And then whatever, we came to find out that it was like a total scam. But I remember like fantasizing about becoming a model, and I'm probably going to age myself when I talk about this. Please do. We're we are pro age on this podcast. So I don't know if you ever got like the Victoria's Secret catalogs in the mail. 100%. Girl, we had this long driveway because we lived like in the middle of nowhere in the woods. So I remember always like running to my mailbox and going and getting the Victoria's Secret catalog and just going in and sitting at my kitchen table and just like flipping through the pages and just admiring all of the Victoria's Secret models and fantasizing about being that one day. And that was always kind of like whatever, it was a goal. Yeah. But then I don't know, as I got into high school, it wasn't really cool to be super girly and like into fashion. Okay. It was cool to either be really good at sports or be artistic. Okay. And because I wasn't very good at sports, I chose the other route. And so I got really into art and photography actually. So I wanted to be on the other side of the camera. Interesting. So after high school, I deferred a year from the University of New Hampshire, and I decided to take an opportunity and go to Hong Kong. Oh, wow. My aunt and uncle lived there at the time, so I had a free place to stay, and they had a really good friend who was a photographer, so I did like a little internship with her. Oh, that's so sick. It was really fun. So I did that for 2 months. Really cool experience. And then I had planned to go to Panama for 2 months and do a volunteer program and volunteer at an orphanage. I did that and ended up meeting a guy when I was in Panama, ended up like falling in love and deferred another year from school. And I continued doing photography and I started like, charging people to take photos of them. And it was really fun. So after Panama, I went to University of New Hampshire and then I transferred to the University of Hawaii. And my boyfriend at the time who lived in Hawaii was signed to a local agency. They were based on Oahu. I lived on the Big Island. And so we went to Oahu for something and he ended up introducing me to his agency. And they decided to sign me. And so that's kind of where like my modeling journey started. Did you go straight from Hawaii to LA? Yeah. So I
I stayed in Hawaii for probably, it was like 5 years doing,
my gosh,
doing
wow.
modeling stuff.
Like full time?
Yeah.
Or you were working?
I was working another job
Okay.
too. So like I was serving, and I was
hustling.
I was hustling. I was like a hostess at one point. I was a server. I worked in retail. So it wasn't like a full-time gig, but I had kind of done everything I could do in Hawaii as far as like the market there. You can only do so much. There's like swimwear, there's jewelry, there's resorts and things like that.
But it's not like big brands are like shooting their like campaigns in Hawaii.
Right. So I kind of wanted to expand and see if I could like tap into the LA market. Abby from Breakwall West, she messaged me and she said, we're like a fit agency, but we also book models for print jobs as well. This brand called Filson would love to book you, and I would love to represent you. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I went and I did this job in Canada, and Abby is really the reason that I was able to come to LA.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They're the best.
I'm so thankful for her.
Yeah.
And that's like another thing that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about in this industry. It's like when you're first starting out, you want so badly to chase like the big agency and the big name.
IMG and women and...
Yeah. I think it really just boils down to if your booker believes in you and, you know, that's all that really...
supports you and cares about you as a person.
Exactly.
And has your best interests in mind instead of just wanting to make money off of you.
That's all that that really matters.
Yeah.
Abby was that for me. And
shout out Abby.
Yeah, we love you, Abby. You're with her too, right? Yeah, that's how
recently.
we met.
Yeah. Well, no, I wasn't with them at the time. Cherokee and I met at a casting for Patagonia.
Yep.
What year was that? So had you just moved here?
I think it was 2018.
Wow. Yeah. Oh my God.
I had just moved here.
But I didn't sign with them until this year. But I did it because of you.
Good.
And also just so many girls that I was running into at different jobs were with them for fit and fit modeling. For those of you who don't know, by the way, I should give some vocabulary. It's like every brand needs girls to put the clothing on before it actually comes out to see how it looks on a body and see what changes they need to make. So I would say probably every brand has fit models that they try the clothes on and edit the samples.
You're basically like a human mannequin.
Basically, exactly. And it's less money than print, obviously, because no photos of you are getting used, but just like way more chill and way more consistent.
More consistent, which is nice. Yeah. And you're behind the scenes, so there's not the pressure of having to feel like you have to look good.
Yeah. And also they know what your body looks like because they've already met you, they've already approved you, they know your measurements. And so, and often it's like, I find that they actually want like, a lot of brands want like bigger hips and like.
For sure. Because I think they're trying to make the clothes fit like an average person,
not like
a customer who's buying the clothes.
Yeah, not like a sample size
exactly
stick thin model. Yeah. Have you done other markets besides LA?
For fit modeling?
Just for modeling in general?
Not really. Oh yeah, I skipped over the part where I went to New York and got completely rejected.
Let's get into that.
Yeah. So I think it was 2016. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to New York for a summer.
Everybody tries it.
Yeah. And I'm like, why the fuck did I choose to go in the summer? Like,
because that's when I went too.
I'm like, what? That was the dumbest time of year to go because I remember like walking to castings and you had to obviously I would like carry my heels like, in my bag because you can't walk in that heat. I would show up to castings just literally drenched in sweat. I'm like,
and then you get on the subway and it's like so hot gross. And swampy down there and it smells and everything smells like trash. Sorry if you live in New York. We love New York, but it is a freaking hard place to live and a hard place to like be like a hard city to hustle in. Like you're not in your car with the air conditioning, like driving place to place like here. It's like you're in the street.
I can handle the fall. I can handle the spring there.
Yeah.
Even the winter is fine, but the summer is so brutal.
Rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe because of school. That's why I had to go during the summer. Because if you were...
Oh, right. Yeah. That's probably why too.
Yeah. So you go to New York.
Yeah, I go to New York and I actually have another aunt and uncle who live just right outside the city. So I had a free place to stay, which was nice. Which was really nice. I wasn't staying in the city, which I kind of like wish that I had just to have that experience, but I would take the train in every day and just go to castings, go meet with agencies. And at the time, my mother agency in Hawaii was setting up all of these meetings for me. So I was hoping that, you know, I would meet with an agency out there and they would like me and they would sign me. But unfortunately, everybody passed on me in the New York market. And that it really took a toll on my mental health.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard because it, especially going from Hawaii, it's like you're a big fish in a little pond.
Yeah.
But then you go to New York and it's like, who
You're
are
nobody.
you? You're absolutely nobody.
Yeah.
So it was hard having to go through that. And again, it all comes back down to your measurements. Every single agency who I met with said that your hips are too big. And that was always the biggest critique that I always got.
Mind you, Cherokee has literally the nicest body I've ever seen in my entire life.
I don't know about that, but
it's true. She is carved by God himself. So for anyone to say that your hips are too big is like, it's just, remember the denim client that we did the fit modeling for together, and she was like making crazy comments about people's body.
Yeah.
It still happens, but like, it's just such a crazy thing for that to happen to people who are on average very small, in incredible shape people. Like, I always think about, if I'm too big and I'm too curvy, what does that say for like the rest of the world?
I know.
Most average sized women. Just such a fucked up mentality to have. Obviously, I know that fashion, especially in New York, it's like you have to fit in a sample size, and that's why they do it. Things have changed, obviously. It's gotten better.
Thank God.
Yeah. But it still has so far to go.
Yeah. I agree. And back in 2016, it was like you had to have a 34-inch hip, otherwise you can't. And I'm like, how do I change my bones?
Yeah.
Like,
I love when they say that. Could you just lose like 2 inches off your waist or 2 inches off your hips? No, it's crazy. When I lived in New York, Kylie and I talked about this on our episode. We were so thin.
I've seen pictures of you. Yeah.
Skeletor, literally. I didn't look good. Also, it didn't suit my body to be that thin.
Yeah.
And I also had to like be very unhealthy to get to that size. And then still you face rejection. And then, sometimes you think, oh, if I just lost a little bit more weight, like maybe it would make me book stuff. And it's like, sometimes it's not even that. You just aren't the right look they're looking for, or whatever it is. But it's really a mind fuck. And it's so challenging to like,
it is.
Take all that in emotionally and mentally, especially at a young age.
When you're that young. You're so impressionable. I think I'm naturally a people pleaser. It just is who I am. And so, it takes a huge toll, and it really gets to you. And I remember struggling a lot with like my relationship with food, my relationship with exercise. Like I was not in a healthy place.
Yeah. It's like a forever thing, honestly, dealing with that. Even now, like I still find myself like, I've gotten so much better, especially as I get older, and I just kind of like accept myself more and love myself more and all of those things. And like I said, I think there has been a change in the modeling industry. There's just been a change, I think, in the world in general, of just like more focus on health and intuition and like listening to your body, literally your podcast. But things have gotten better. Yeah. But I still find myself sometimes like slipping back into
same. And I think it's totally normal. Like for anybody out there, even people who are not in the industry, I think it's totally normal as a woman to have these thoughts, have these feelings, have body dysmorphia from time to time. Like it's you're not alone if you're feeling like that. But I think age does definitely help, and just feeling like more comfortable in your own skin and not really giving a fuck. And honestly, like something that's really helped me is becoming a mom. And I thought that it would have the opposite effect.
I was about to ask, actually, that's like a huge thing I want to talk about, because I think for myself and maybe other women in general, but I think probably women who are in these type of industries where like their body is their like tool for making money. Like, were you scared, and how did becoming a mom and your body changing affect your career and affect your mental health? Yeah,
it was a huge factor as to why I was so resistant the moment I found out I was pregnant, because it's like you have no idea what to expect. You can't really control it. Your body is just going to change no matter what you do. It was hard, but then I think I reached a certain point in my pregnancy where it's like you kind of just have to surrender and accept it and just be like, you know what, just
I literally can't stop this from happening.
Yeah. And I think the most important thing to remember is just like to give yourself grace and be patient with yourself after giving birth, because it's like you're pregnant for literally 10 months, which is basically a year. There's so much like noise in the mom community of like bounce back culture and all of that, which I don't like that. It's like, it's not healthy to have that mentality, because you literally just created a human. Like it's the most amazing thing that your body can do. And I think the most important thing to remember is to just have patience with yourself and give yourself the same amount of time that you were pregnant to feel confident again in your own skin.
And also, nothing is one size fits all. There's never going to be like one thing that works for every person or like one timeline that makes sense for everybody. Like
exactly.
Everybody's pregnancies are different. Everybody's bodies are different. Everybody's like post-pregnancy experience is different. Everybody's kid is different. Like there's so many factors. I can't imagine like for social media how stressful it might feel to like see one person who's like back to being my same size like 2 weeks later, and some people are like, oh, it took me like 2 years to lose the baby, or maybe they never lost the baby weight. I feel like that would be an enormous amount of pressure.
Yeah, the comparison game is hard sometimes, and I think that that's just like an overarching theme in this industry as well, is just like having to deal with comparing yourself to others. On the note of motherhood and pregnancy, I think your priorities also shift. Thinking about what food I was going to eat and like making sure that I exercised every day wasn't my top priority anymore. It was like taking care of my son.
Yeah.
And then I think the rest of the things just kind of feel not as important once you have a child. So that also really helps.
Comfort. Yeah.
Yeah, it really helps. And I feel like the more you stress about things and the more you're like focusing on, oh, like, why am I not booking this job? Why am I not working this month? I think the more you focus on that, the less opportunities come your way. Because I've found that as soon as I let go of all of that shit and stop caring about it, like that's when all the jobs start rolling in. So I think that that's another big takeaway, is like I know it's a lot easier said than done, but
it's so true.
Just like not stressing so much about the inconsistency of things.
I feel like that's like just life in general. Like the more you try to force something, the more pressure you put on yourself about something, it just like makes it feel, I don't know, it just gives you so much anxiety. And it like sometimes I think it just blocks your
blessings.
Yeah, it just blocks you from being able to like put your energy towards like whatever's actually going to get you somewhere. You know, if you're just like taking care of yourself, doing what you have to do for your mind and your body and your spirit, all those things, like the bright things are going to come to you.
Yeah.
How has it affected just like actually booking jobs? Well, first of all, how hard is it to work and have a baby?
Yeah, that's definitely like schedule wise.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit tricky, but not too bad. Like as long as you can find somebody who you really trust, then that's all that it really takes. And just having
you can afford,
and can afford, That's a whole other thing, but
childcare is so expensive.
It's crazy. Yeah. So
preschools are like as much as college now. The
preschools in LA are absolutely ridiculous.
You're like, I could go back to an Ivy League school and get a master's degree for this rate.
And it's really like glorified daycare. Like I would love to have Hunter in like some amazing preschool, but it's really just like I'm paying $40,000 a year for
someone to like hang out with my kid.
Yeah. But yeah, schedule wise, I think as long as you find someone who you can trust and their schedule is like somewhat flexible, then it's worked out for the most part, which I'm very thankful for. And because my partner is also in the industry, it's good because our schedules are flexible. So say like our nanny is not available one day when I have a booking, then, you know, he'll take over. Yeah, for the most part.
Have you felt any pressure to like change your content at all, or like?
Definitely. Yeah. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like once you become a mom, of course, I feel like you get judged a lot more.
Yeah.
And so the content that I was putting out before was a lot more sexy, I feel like. And now that I have the podcast, I feel like it's helped me kind of shift in a different direction.
Yeah, naturally.
But also at the same time, it's like, I think you should be able to post whatever the fuck you want, even if you are a mom. Like, I don't know. It's hard because it is such a judgy community.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to like break those stereotypes that you have to like fit into a certain mold. And if at the moment you become a mom, like you can't post bikini pictures and
like, I'm still hot,
right,
guys. Like, I still get to be hot. Just because I'm a mom doesn't mean I lose that part of myself.
Yeah.
Also, I just feel like there's a huge trend right now of like mommy influencers. Do you feel like, oh my God, I need to be like a mommy blogger now?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much that I feel like I'm like behind on in a weird way. I'm like, I wish I had, how do these people have so much time in the day?
They probably have like full-time help.
That's true. Yeah. I'm like, I wish I could record like what I'm making Hunter for dinner and, you know, go through our day-to-day activities.
You're like, I'm lucky if I get it on the table.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. It actually shocks me. Like, momfluencers get a lot of bad reps, and obviously that's like a personal preference, like what you feel comfortable sharing online of your kids. Personally, I think some of it's too much.
Yeah.
But also, like, I do have a respect for people that have the time and energy to like turn their life into content, because it's like, yeah, if I try to do like one day on TikTok, I've tried to do like a vlog or something, and like 30 minutes later, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to record all of that.
Yeah. I mean, props to all of the women out there who are doing it, because
it's a lot of work.
I don't think I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I also just really put a lot of emphasis on trying to be as present as I can when I am with Hunter. So I feel like having my phone out and having all of that, there's just too much for me to, I don't know, maybe it's just like my personality or.
No, I think that's good, because I think like kids are now, they're so used to technology, but I think the more that you can kind of keep them separated from it for as long as possible, I feel like it's probably better.
For sure.
Have you seen the kids now, like on TikTok or whatever, that just, they like love looking at themselves in the phone because they're so used to it? I'm like, that can't be good.
I know. And like they're making their own like little tutorials. Even Hunter, like, because I'll let him watch YouTube sometimes. And, you know, like he'll take my phone and be like, the other day we were eating cashews and he goes, thanks for watching my cashew video. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm like, what?
Oh my gosh. You're like, where did you learn that?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
it's crazy.
It's insane. I have two little siblings. They're 13 and 11 now. But just seeing the way that they've like grown up with technology being just so much a part of their life.
I know.
And back to what we were talking about with the comparison thing, it's like, I do get scared about that for them and then for my future children, because we're already dealing with that. And like, we've been dealing with that since probably we're in high school. It's probably when like social media and stuff came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine if it would have been even younger and just like having that pressure. When we were young, the only time you really compared yourself to someone was like when you watched a movie and it was a movie star or something.
Or like in a magazine or whatever.
Or if you were in person at school and you're like, I wish I had Susie's backpack. Like, all I have is this, you know, whatever. But now it's like constantly just
in
seeing
their
the
faces
stuff that people are doing all the time. Like, I don't want to know what everyone's doing 24/7.
We're really like the last generation that didn't grow up with technology
like that.
Yeah, the world will like literally never be the same. And I feel for all of these kids, because it must be, I can't even imagine. And that's why I'm nervous about having a girl, because there is that other element of having to think about the technology and like when to introduce it and all of these things. It's
like how to keep her safe.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously all children,
of
girls,
course.
There's so many more threats and dangers out there, I think, for women and girls. What would you do if she wanted to be a model?
I know. Sometimes I think about that, because I mean,
she's going to see that
she's going to be growing up in this industry. I mean, Josh is probably never going to stop being a photographer. So I'm hoping that because she grows up with it and it's kind of like normalized for her, that maybe she'll want to take a different path. But if she does, and I mean, of course I'll support her in anything that she wants to do and, you know, help guide her in whatever way that I can. But I'm kind of like hoping that she doesn't.
I know people have asked me that before too. And I'm just like, it's good that she would have a mom who has experience and can like help guide her through that, because I'm sure, especially we're both from like kind of the middle of nowhere. Like I'm guessing that your family didn't have any experience with this type of world. So, and my mom, even listening to this podcast, my mom was like, oh my God, I didn't even know about some of the stuff you've experienced.
Really?
Or like what was going on when you were living thousands of miles away from me.
Yeah.
And
they don't know.
Yeah. So at least having parents who do have insight and can like protect her and know and like guide her. Yeah, exactly. Then it would be a better situation, but still like just the mental aspect of it and like how it can affect your self-worth and all those types of things, I think is just, and also just like the scary things that we've get exposed to.
Yeah.
On that note, do you have any crazy stories? Yeah. Do you have a horror story for us?
There's like one story that really stands out in my mind, and it was back in Hawaii. Actually, it wasn't even in LA. I think I have a different experience from a lot of models who come to LA because I started dating Josh so quickly after I got here. And so kind of for those of you who don't know, I'm in a relationship with a photographer, and I started dating him like 2 months after I got to LA. Wow. So it was very quick.
Yeah.
And I think because I'm with somebody who's in the industry, who's pretty respected in the industry, I haven't really gotten fucked with a lot since being in LA.
That's actually so true.
So this was back in Hawaii, and I was shooting for this swim calendar, and my agency sent me to this guy. So
it's always, the story always starts, my agency sent me. It's like, guys, do some vetting, please.
Right? Do some research. And it's funny because other girls from my agency had worked with this person before. So of course, like, if your agency sends you to somebody, you're going to trust their judgment.
100%.
So I show up to this photographer's house, and he's creating a swim calendar. You know, I assume, like, we're in Hawaii, we're in like one of the most beautiful places in our country.
We're going to shoot like outside.
On location.
Yeah.
So I show up, my boyfriend at the time dropped me off, and he takes me inside his house, and I will never forget walking into this man's house. Mind you, I know it's not good to judge people on their looks, but this guy also just looked the part. He looked so creepy. We lived in Hawaii, but he was as white as this table. So ghostly white. Oh, no. So skinny, like looked like so malnourished. And
You're
so
like,
that was like the
first
red flag.
Yeah.
Because he
was giving you spooky vibes.
Creepy,
well, also you probably just
vibes.
felt...
Yeah, it was just like my intuition. I was just like, this is weird.
Yeah.
So he takes me inside his house. It was like all of the windows were like boarded up. There was also no furniture. It smelled like rotten milk.
What?
So I was just like,
you're like, this is like the beginning of a horror story.
Yeah, I was like,
a horror
Mayday,
film, literally.
Please, just like come back and get me. But I was like, okay, it's going to be fine. I have my phone on me in case anything happens. And so there's no furniture, but he takes me into his bedroom where he has this like makeshift studio set up.
Okay.
His bed is in there. Obviously, this is his bedroom. It's like filled with all of this. I don't know. He was like a hoarder.
Oh, no.
I go into the bathroom to change, and as soon as I walk into the bathroom, it was a huge stack of toilet paper rolls, just empty toilet paper rolls. I was like,
girl, you should have ran.
I don't know what I was thinking, but he didn't seem threatening to me because, again, I was like bigger than him. Like he was like emaciated, like
also,
pale, skinny,
people are always
guy.
like, why didn't you just leave? It's like, it's such an awkward position when you're just one-on-one with someone. Like, what are you gonna do? Be like, you have toilet paper rolls. Like, I gotta go. Like, you know what I mean? You can't just.
What do you say? And also, like, your agency set you up with this.
So you don't want to, like,
a job.
Yeah, you don't want to get in trouble.
Right.
Or like, be like, I left because his house was creepy. Like, you know, it's.
Yeah. So I hesitantly just like went back out, and you know, this was my first time ever shooting Implied. So I don't really remember how we got there. I got me to, you know, take my top off.
They always find a way.
It's so funny because I was like looking back on old photos, and I came across those photos, and it's just like that those feelings came back again of feeling just like so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Luckily he didn't do anything, but I later came to find out that one of the other girls who had shot with him in my agency claimed that he like pushed her on the bed and started trying to like go down on her and was very inappropriate. So I remember mentioning how uncomfortable I felt to my agency after, and
well, I hope they never ever work with him ever again.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, at least they like took that seriously, because I feel like sometimes, I mean, that's like a very serious allegation, obviously, but like I feel like sometimes there's a lot of people who have stories about them and just like no one really takes it seriously.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah, I got sent to a photographer in New York who, same thing, just gave me the fucking creeps. Like as soon as I met him, but there was a makeup artist there, so I was like, okay, there's a third party here.
That's good.
I'm gonna be fine. But he was just weird, like gave me a creepy feeling. And I told my booker, like, she asked how it was, and I was like, yeah. And the pictures were terrible also. And so they ended up
the worst. Like it's not even worth it.
No, I was like, why did I just go through like hours of being so uncomfortable with this person? And then they sent me back, because I went to New York like the next summer, and they sent me back to shoot with this guy again. And I was like, oh, not this guy again. And so I'm like, okay, I'm sure there'll be a makeup artist again. And I get there, no makeup artist. And he like amped up the creepiness by like 1,000,000. He was like dumping oil on me and shit. He was like, oh, I just wish you had a sister who was like twice your age. And I was like, oh my God.
So inappropriate.
Yeah. And then he's like making weird sounds while he's shooting, and just like,
I've had that before too.
Yeah, he's like moaning and
fuck.
Yeah. And then afterwards, again, the photos were absolutely even worse this time. And I look so like dejected and like scared in the photos.
It comes out.
Yeah. And I called my agency and I was like, yeah, you sent me back to the guy who was creepy already. And now he was 3 times as creepy. Like, please stop sending girls there. Like, he is a weirdo.
Did they listen to you, your booker?
They were like, oh, why didn't you tell us last time? And I was like, I literally did.
Yeah.
So whatever. But yeah, it was so creepy. And he was like, he made some comment too, like, oh, I was like, I need to let my mom know I'm not like dead. And he was like, if I was going to do anything to you, it wouldn't be kill you. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Like,
oh my God, Courtney.
So creepy. Honestly. And
how'd
same
you
thing.
Get out of there? You just finished it and
finished the shoot. Yeah. He was also like 60 years old. Like,
that's the worst.
Just so bad.
It's like, in what fucking world?
In what world?
Why?
And also, like, I feel like you can tell that there are definitely men who get into this industry just to be creepy.
100%.
Like, you're some weird ass old man who was like, you know what? If I buy a camera, because also, like, he sucked as a photographer. So, like, I just wish that agencies, they need to keep, like, a Rolodex of, like, get rid of that one, get rid of that one.
Just a list of the red flag people. Yeah. Because there's a lot of them out there.
And it sucks because it's, like, maybe nothing actually really happened to you. Yeah. But it's still such a creepy position to be in, and like it is traumatizing. A girl at Skims actually recently, I don't know, Felicia, do you know her? She's an intimacy coordinator for like acting and stuff like that. And she was like, we need that for modeling. Like, we need someone.
Why don't we have that?
We just need a third person to be there to make sure you're cool with stuff, everything's going right, like you feel comfortable. Yeah. 1,000%. Because like there have been scenarios where like I will try to bring a friend, or like I'll try to have someone to be there, just
to be a third party.
Yeah, to be a third party, because it just makes you feel more comfortable. And then also, sadly, you know that most likely someone won't do something if there's like a witness.
Exactly.
But yeah, we need that. We need intimacy coordinators.
Too, like as far as like an intimacy coordinator goes, like with the talent, that's actually a big thing that I've actually experienced, is not so much the photographers being inappropriate, but like the other talent on set being. I remember I was on this job once, and we were shooting in Alaska, and the male model who I was shooting with just made me feel so fucking uncomfortable. Ew. And I had to ride home with him after we had shot, and I just remember feeling so uncomfortable. And you know, like, to your point, if there was somebody there, like an intimacy coordinator,
you could have been like, hey, I don't feel comfortable with this guy. Like, I don't want to ride home with him. Yeah. There's no one to like have your back, basically. And like, again, sometimes your agency wouldn't even help you, but also like, it's not like they're there with you.
Exactly.
If you're an adult, you're just going and doing all this stuff by yourself. So yeah, we need someone else.
Yeah. That's a really good point. And I'm so surprised that that's not a thing.
Well, I'm not surprised, but like, no one wants to spend the extra budget. You know what I mean?
That's true, especially nowadays.
Yeah, we need that. Hello.
Yeah. You good?
I'm gonna take a water break.
Actually, yeah, good call.
Honestly, we've been yapping for a hot minute.
I feel like my backstory of how I got started took like
it was great. It was so good. You're so good at like telling a beautiful story.
Really?
You were painting the picture for me. Yeah, I was there running down the lane with you to get the catalog. It was great. I always ask like a final wrap up question. Let me see what I wrote for yours.
Ooh, you switch it up every time?
I think I kind of do.
That's cool. I like that.
Maybe I have. It's kind of all within the same family, but I will just ask kind of like two main questions. What has been your favorite part, or like the best thing that modeling has given you?
Oh, I think getting to travel to different places is definitely, I think, the main perk, because otherwise you wouldn't really have the opportunity to go to a lot of these places. Yeah. So I would say that, and also getting to meet a lot of like my best friends, really. I think that the industry has a bad rep and like a stereotype of like models being mean to each other, but I have not found that to be the case whatsoever. Like, I can't even, I mean, maybe there was like a couple times where I worked with another model and they were kind of like rude to me or whatever, but for the most part, I feel like everybody that I meet on set, like if it's the makeup artist or the other model, I feel like I've been able to connect with a lot of people and get opportunities that I probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Okay, and then what's the hardest part? Like, what's been the most difficult?
I would have to say going back to the point of comparison and having to deal with that. And I think I have a little bit of a unique experience because my partner is also a photographer, and I think it's good in so many ways, but a lot of times, like at the beginning of our relationship, it was really hard on me because I would find myself comparing myself to everybody that he was shooting, and he shoots literally the most beautiful girls in the world,
and also in very seductive ways very often. So
exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure that's difficult.
And so that was really hard for me, and it took a lot of like digging deep, lots of therapy. Yeah. But in a way, I'm really glad that I had to go through that, because I think it's made me a lot stronger. And now it's obviously not an issue, but like first coming to LA and having that be your reality is it's a lot to deal with. So that's definitely been the hardest thing for me, is the comparison portion of it.
Yeah. And how do you deal with that? Therapy, just working on yourself?
Yeah. And I think, like we were talking about earlier, I think as you get older, it just becomes easier, and you start to become just more confident and comfortable in your own skin, and you start to realize like nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah.
Nobody's thinking about you. No. Nobody is paying attention to like if you have a zit on your face, or if you have like whatever insecurity you're dealing with at the time, nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah. It's bothering you way more than anyone would ever even notice it.
Exactly.
And it's hard. That's such a hard thing to like, it's easy to say, it's so much harder to make someone understand that. Cause we all have to go through that, being young and just feeling so, just comparing yourself to other people and feeling so bad about yourself. But if you're a younger model or just a young person listening to this, like it will get better, and you will feel more and more like yourself and more comfortable with yourself as you get older, and stop giving a fuck.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. That's really all it boils down to, is just,
especially being a mom. You're like, I got so much shit to worry about.
Yeah.
I got 1.5, 1 and almost 2 people to deal with.
Yeah, this is the last thing I'm about to worry about.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This is such a nice catch up, and congratulations. I can't wait to meet. I still haven't met Hunter, first of all.
What?
Yes. So
we got to change that immediately.
I'm going to meet baby 1 and baby 2.
I feel like you and Hunter are going to be little besties.
Oh, he's so cute.
He's going to love you.
Also, plug your podcast for the people. Give us a
I would love to. It's called The M.I.L.F Way, and it's not exclusively for moms. It's really anybody who just wants to better themselves, and it's really a wellness podcast. So definitely go check that out.
Yeah, I will put all of Cherokee's information, all of the M.I.L.F Way information in the description.
Thanks, my love. I'm so proud of you for starting this.
Thank you.
I mean, it's a lot of work. But I know that you've been wanting to do it for a really long time.
Forever. As you guys have heard on every episode, everyone's like, thank God you finally did it. I'm like, I know.
Yeah, I'm glad that you finally did, because this, I mean, it's such a niche subject, and I feel like it needs to be more talked about.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you for coming to the It's Not Pretty M.I.L.F Way crossover episode.
Oh, collab.
Yes, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.